Hi, my name is Mitchell Saylor, and I'm an artist who primarily paints realistic oil landscapes. And I also paint architecture, animals, still lifes, and textural abstract pieces. I went to SUNY Orange in Middletown, New York, and I also received my Bachelor's of Fine Art in Painting and Drawing from SUNY New Paltz. So I've always enjoyed creating art, and I became serious about it in high school. My uncle is a painter and my grandmother painted, and they both inspired me. Painting and being in nature is very meditative, and I feel like painting is very relaxing and exciting. I love how you have a blank flat canvas and then you can create realistic objects and come to life on the canvas. You can create very vast space and depth in a landscape painting, and then it's like the canvas transforms into a scene of realism, and I love how it comes to life. I have around 500 paintings. So I have my colors arranged from light to dark, and I have a lot of primary colors. These are warm colors and cool colors. And this is my oil paint, and I have in this glass palette, and it has a lid, and I can close the lid, and then I can put it in my freezer, and the paint won't dry as fast. In that can, I have Gamsol, and in the palette cups have walnut oil. Here are some of my brushes. I have a lot of brushes. Plein air painting, it's painting outdoors on location, and a plein air is French for outdoors. It's really, fun to be outdoors, really looking at the landscape and really feeling connected to it and seeing the true light effect, the true colors, feeling the weather conditions. So you really get a feeling of the place. I work from photographs as well, but photographs can distort reality. I have a huge backpack and an easel and tripod, and sometimes I use a French easel. But plein air painting does get me to paint quickly because you only get so much time to be outdoors before the light changes. Well, with the clouds specifically, sometimes you can wait a little while and the cloud go away, but you can draw a sketch when I start, and you can put in the shadows and freeze the light effect. Unless like later in the painting, the light really changes and looks a lot better, you can kind of remember how it was at a certain point. I've painted buildings and seen the shadows, go across a building. So you kind of just figure out a point where you want that to stop. Oftentimes when I'm plein air painting, it's because I've gone to like a plein air festival. I started painting plein air with the Walker River School. They would go out on Sunday mornings and we'd go to different spots. So plein air festival would be like a group of artists would gather in a certain area. Everyone would paint that landscape or that region for maybe a week or a few days. And then there'd be a show of an exhibit of that artwork. When you're plein air painting during one of these festivals, you really have to create a lot of paintings within a short amount of time. You want to have maybe 5 paintings within 3 days at least. With plein air, the light changes. So you get different light in the morning than the afternoon. So like for 3 or 4 hours, you can paint in the morning light, and then you can go somewhere else and paint in the afternoon for another 3 or 4 hours. If it's the summer, you get a lot of light. If I didn't finish the painting, I would go back to the same place at the same time and hope for the same weather conditions and finish it. This is Trophy Point from West Point. I painted this when Walker River School artists were given permission to paint at West Point. So I started it there and then I finished it from photographs. I often do that, though. You can't do that when you're doing one of these plein air festivals because those are also competitions. For those festivals, I've traveled places, traveled to the Adirondacks, I've traveled to Blowing Rock, North Carolina, I've traveled different places to participate in them. But I enjoy this area and the Hudson River, and this shows how I'm influenced by the Hudson River School as well. This view, if you're not familiar, it's looking up toward Newburgh and Bannerman Island and looking up the river. I do love working in a traditional style. I feel like that, in history, the artists had beautiful, high quality approaches to art. And I love how I can honor and build on that history and bring it into today's world. This is my grandparents' barn on their farm. It's near Corning, New York. It's a place I enjoy visiting, and my grandmother still lives there. The barn's undergone some repairs. It does pretty much look the same now, but it does look a little different. Art can preserve places and preserve a moment in time. So this is actually a triptych, 3-panel piece of art. This was a piece I did when I was in New Paltz. This was my thesis show when I was graduating with my BFA, and I call it Distant Connections. So there's a whirlpool, a hurricane, and a galaxy. They're all showing the swirling patterns of nature, and there's a swirling pattern that unifies these 3 pieces. This work comments on how the massive, overwhelming forces of nature, from a faraway vantage point, they can feel ordered and more peaceful. And it also relates to the idea of the sublime, or the awe-inspiring drama of nature. This was a big project I did. They put out pianos in Goshen. This is the Keys of Goshen project. I painted one of the pianos that they put out in the town during the summer. Mine was on the theme of farm to farmer's market. I painted this with acrylic. All the other paintings you've seen have been oil. So you can see some of the Black Dirt region farms. I was one of the organizers doing stuff with the Goshen Art League for many years, and still a member, actively participating in shows. So this is the Presbyterian Church, and then the farmer's market is in the field in front of that. The other side of the piano had vegetables. And then on the back, I had to figure out a creative way to use this surface. So vegetables are growing out of the dirt, and the handles of the piano have become trowels. Another project they have in Goshen, they've had it for the last 5 years. They paint wood cutouts of horses. So a bunch of artists do these, and they put them all around the village. All the horses last year were inspired by the masters. So I chose 2 artists I'm inspired by, Hudson River School artists. This one is inspired by Thomas Cole's Voyage of Life, which is a 4-panel series that he did. So I've reinterpreted it. There's a little horse in the landscape, and he's growing up across the horse here. And I also used the seasons as a metaphor for the stages of life. On this side of the horse, this one was inspired by Our Banner in the Sky by Frederick Church. So it's a sunset landscape resembling an American flag. This one's a departure from my usual realism. So it started with me cleaning off my palette, scraping paint off my palette and putting it on canvas. Since then, it's really evolved. So these paintings are very small. They're 5 by 7 inches. I'm having fun and using my imagination and being creative with these pieces and using my intuition. It's a fun, different approach for me. This is a painting I did Plein Air at Mohawk Mountain House, and that's a place I also enjoy exhibiting my artwork. I want to show this one because I set up to paint, and there to the right of that rock there's a fawn. I felt like this is the spot to paint. That little fawn stayed there the whole time I was painting until I was finished with it. This is a watercolor I did of the fawn from photographs later. I'm inspired by nature and the Hudson River School painters. There's some great English landscape painters who are influential to me. There's an American wing at the Met is beautiful. There's all kinds of places you can go see the paintings, and I've been to the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. The Frick has beautiful painting. They don't have the Hudson River School. The Frick is all like more European. So there you can see like beautiful Turner paintings. If you go to my website, I usually have a list of where my artwork is. So I feel like something important to know about my art would be that I'm very passionate about creating it. I really enjoy the creative process. I want to convey an uplifting, positive feeling with my art. And I'm very thankful to the people who have come to my art shows, to people who collect my art, and to my parents who have really supported my art and do so much for my art. One piece of advice would be just to look at a lot of art and find artists you admire and watch artist demonstrations so you can see their process. And you can take classes with artists to learn. I think it's important as an artist to always be learning and growing and improving. I teach private lessons. I have an art class at the Mulberry House Senior Center on Thursday mornings. So if seniors want to start doing art, they can come. I think it's also really important to join art organizations. So like I've joined, many art organizations locally, and I'm a member of the Salmagundi Club in Manhattan. So, you keep growing and meeting more artists, and art groups will have exhibits, and then you can meet the artists at your work in the shows, and then it can kind of keep growing and just keep painting and really enjoy the creative process because, if you're really enjoying it, then it has real meaning.
Thank you for joining us for the Orange County Arts Council virtual studio visit. This program is made possible by donations from people like you. 50% of donations go directly to the artists featured and 50% to the Orange County Arts Council programs. Please consider donating today. You can donate by going to ocartscouncil.org. The Arts Council's virtual studio visits are presented in partnership with the Newburgh Free Library and are made possible in part by NISCA,